Good evening. How are you? Well, it's a great day in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, and thank you for joining us tonight. Yay! It's that time of year, so all of our students have like 5 commitments tonight. So we need to quickly, if you will join me in thanking the Huron Symphony Quartet. They're right here. Yeah. I'm so delighted to have Rob Malcolm with me. He is a senior, class of 2019 at Pioneer High School. Will you give him a big congrats? Huron, hang on 1 second. Rob, go for it.
We would like to recognize the Huron School Symphony String Quartet. They played earlier for our receptions. The student quartet is made up of Valen Roan on violin, Christine Zhang on violin also.
Yay.
Bryce Young on violin. And Sebastian Borowski on cello.
Very good. There they are, right there. Yay.
The Huron High School Orchestra directors are Timothy Crone and Joseph DeMarsh.
Joe DeMarsh, thank you. Thank you, Rob. So, also we just want to thank this evening all of the Ann Arbor Public Schools team who took time to join us this evening. I know your days during May are long, and in June they get even longer. So will you stand up, and those of you standing, just raise your hand and wave, and let's give the team a big hand, please. There they are, right there. Yeah. Beautiful. We also want to thank all of our art students, Miss Robin Bailey, and all of our art teachers for the beautiful art display. I hope that you took time to wander through there. If you have not yet, take a break at some point this evening and enjoy the beautiful artwork. Thank you, Robin, and all of our art teachers. Thank you. I'm so delighted to have at each of your tables this evening a student ambassador. These students, except for one, are all seniors, members of the class of 2019, and the junior who's joining them is just simply advanced. We'll just say it that way. And so we're delighted to have them join us. And student ambassadors, will you pop up and run right down here so everybody can see who you are? Come on down. There they are. I want to get a photo with you. Come right on in, guys. Aren't they beautiful? Yeah. So squeeze in, guys, because I don't think Mr. Cluley can get you. There we are. Just pretend you're taking a selfie. Times 12. All right. On the end. Come on in. Beautiful. There we go. Beautiful. Thank you, students. I want to thank Ms. Nancy Shore. Where are you, Nancy? Business Partnership Coordinator, and all of our business partners. Will you jump up? Business partners are around the room, and we're so delighted with all of you being here. Jump up. Don't be shy. Where are they? Okay, there they are, right there. Beautiful. We have so many strategic partners, we really can't get them all on one slide anymore. But these guys work with us every day. I think University of Michigan, it's about 80 partnerships that we have just with U of M alone. So we're so fortunate to have the engagement in our community and so grateful to all of our great partners. Thanks to Nancy for cooperating and running that amazing organization that serves all of our volunteers and all of our partners in the district. We're very fortunate to have advisory groups. I'm not sure how many of you are here this evening, but they've been busy working all year long on a variety of endeavors, and you'll hear more about those. Any advisory members, pop up and let us say thank you for your presence this evening. Don't be shy. I know some of you are here. There we go. Yay. Thank you. Very delighted to introduce the Board of Education. Just hold your applause. We'll get them up and then applaud one time. President Harmony Mitchell, Trustees Susan Basquette, Jeffrey Gaynor, Brian Johnson, Jessica Kelly, Rebecca Lazarus, and Simone Lightfoot, your Ann Arbor Public Schools Board of Education. They give thousands of hours, and most of us don't ever remember to say thank you. So I just want to thank them publicly for their work. I'm also honored to have joining us this evening Mr. Fred Klein, President of the AAEA. Thank you, Fred. Great to see you. I did not see him earlier. He's hiding in the corner. But join me also in welcoming Principal Michael Madison, President of our Quad A organization, right back here. And also, we're delighted to have join us this evening Dr. Scott Menzel, Superintendent of our Washtenaw Intermediate School District. Scott. Now, these guys are amazing. I will just share with you that this is the Skyline High School a cappella performing group, Skyline Blues, the 17-member team made up of freshmen to seniors. Where are you seniors? Raise your hand. There they are. Oh my goodness, great. Juniors, beautiful. Sophomores, great. Freshmen, oh, yay. We gotta ensure that you have depth on this team, right? That's great. You may not yet have heard, but it's just a highlight of our year and so well deserved that this 17-member team took second place just a couple weeks ago at the International Championships of High School a cappella choirs in New York City. Here they are, second in the world. They are directed by Lindsay Suchansky and Austin Terrace. Austin's over here. Thank you. Skyline Blues.
We're here where the daylight begins. Fog on the street light slowly thins. Watching on waters the way. Safety of shoreline fading away. Sail your sea, make your storm. All I want is to be your harbor. The light in me will guide you home. All I want is to be your harbor. Feels the brightest of suns, shape of the boundary you leave behind. Sing all your questions to sleep. The answers are out there in the drowning deep. So go far beyond where we stand. No matter the distance, I'm holding your hand. Sail your sea, build your storm. All I want is to be your harbor. Light in me, I'll guide you home. All I want is to be your harbor.
From the driveway of my house to your apartment where I am waiting now. Come on, don't think nights young, let's go. NYC, Portland, Austin, Anaheim. Maybe not Anaheim, keep an open mind. I'm just saying, baby, let's go. I don't care. Anywhere. Like a river connects to the ocean, this pavement touches wherever we go, and white lights flying by, who knows what we'll find. You and me tonight, drive. Let's drive. When's the last time we dropped our things and went? Woke up somewhere that we both never been. Growing up doesn't mean getting older. Maybe it's just left turns off familiar streets. I just wanna come back with a memory. Growing up doesn't mean getting older. I don't care. Anywhere, like a river connects to the ocean. This pavement touches wherever we go, and white lights flying by, who knows what we'll find. You and me tonight, drive. And oh, let's drive. Remember when we were young and free, all the way things used to be. Baby, can we go back? 3.2 from the driveway of my house to your apartment where I am waiting now. Like a river connects to the ocean, this pavement touches wherever we go, and white lights flying by, who knows what we'll find. You and me tonight. Like a river connects to the ocean, this pavement touches wherever we go, and white lights flying by, who knows what we'll find. You and me tonight. Like a river connects to the ocean, this pavement touches wherever we go, and white lights flying by, who knows what we'll find. You and me tonight. Drive. Oh, let's drive. Let's drive. And oh, let's drive.
Believe it or not, they still have homework. So we wanted to get them out in time to get home. They're getting ready, some of them for finals, etc. So thank you. What a treat. Skyline Blues, give them another big round. Well, it is a great day and a great evening in the Ann Arbor Public Schools as we come together to review our annual State of the Schools report. This isn't a night where we just talk about the happy, good stuff. We'll be following along the Optimist competition theme of optimism and reality. And I think that's a great vehicle for holding both our local conversation as well as our state and national one, don't you? Yeah. As we come together to review this 2019 State of the Schools annual report, we reflect on our progress over this year, celebrate the achievements and awards, embrace our challenges and look them square on, and we also turn and look toward the future. I'm reminded of the Balinese tradition. You see, when you're walking down the road in Bali and you encounter a stranger, the very first question he or she will ask you is, where are you coming from? The second question is, where are you going? To a Westerner, this may seem like a rather invasive inquiry from a stranger you don't even know. And yet, it's the Balinese way that when they inquire in this way, they're trying to get an orientation on you, to place you into the grid, because it's their cultural belief that if they can locate you in the grid, then that connection becomes meaningful, and there is an awareness of story. So they want to insert you into that grid for the purpose of security and comfort. The Balinese tradition suggests a way of positioning our progress quite simply by orienting where we have come from, where we are tonight, and where we are going. The Balinese relate and interpret reality intuitively, and they know that once we know where we are, where we've come from, and where we're going, once we understand each other's stories within context and sense of place, we know that it is all about story. And so it's not so very different for the Ann Arbor Public Schools and this annual 2019 annual report this evening. We are, all of us, across our teams, across our families, across our friendships and connections, as a community represented in this room, we are all along the journey. We know where we've come from. We have context. We are, as individuals and as a group, coming from somewhere. We have a history. We absolutely understand the reality of our current environment. We'll talk about that this evening as well. And yet I'm inspired this evening because as we work together, we discover where we're going and we can impact where we're headed for good. Would you agree? And one of the biggest assets that we have in Ann Arbor Public Schools and in our Ann Arbor community is the engagement of our partners, of our staff, of our parents, of our students. We are rich because folks like you will give up an evening in May. And I see your faces and know that so many of you give evening after evening. And I want you to know tonight that we're on this journey because of your engagement. And I invite you to relax and enjoy the evening. And yet I hope that you will make valuable connections through this evening to continue our work in meaningful ways together. So thank you all for being a part of this evening. In the wider frame, we consider where we are in the Ann Arbor Public Schools framed against P-12 education today in 2019, both in the state of Michigan and across the country. We're telling our Ann Arbor Public Schools story, and we're telling that story to advocate and to move the conversation locally, at the state level, and across the country. Before we get into all that heavy stuff, though, let's have some celebrations. How does that sound? Very good. I want to begin with celebrations. It's been a busy year of awards and recognitions, and just take a deep breath in and let it out. I'm not going to read them all individually, so you can relax. But we do want to acknowledge and embrace and celebrate our awards and recognitions. I find that in Ann Arbor, folks are so accustomed to being on the top 10 list, it happens all the time, that often we don't notice these things as much as we should. So I want this evening to take a few moments and recognize with the spotlight on our constellation of extraordinary Ann Arbor Public Schools educators. So they've already received their directions. They're going to pop up. There are many awards in your program. Here they are. We're going to highlight the individuals. So here we go. I see some of you in the room. Jump up, and we'll hold our applause till they're all up. Jeffrey Austin, Skyline High School. Eve Clare, Pioneer High School. Jonathan Cook, Huron High School. Renee DeBella, Scarlett Middle School. Stay up once you're up. Chad Downs, Ann Arbor Open. Caroline Fitzgerald, Scarlett Middle School. William Finch, Huron High School. Sharonda Jones, Hazley Elementary. Kate Odette, Huron High School. Tom Pachera, Project Lead the Way Department Chair. Yael Rothfeld, Thurston Elementary. Sarah Shemansky, Wines Elementary. Emma Sierzega, Lakewood Elementary. Marcy Tazinski and Rebecca Westray, Dean and Assistant Dean, Community High School. Bill Van Loo, A2 STEAM. Angela War, School Social Worker. Will you join me in giving them a big round of applause? Yay. And they represent so beautifully. And I'm so proud of their efforts and of their achievements. And we are so rich in the Ann Arbor Public Schools with so many award winners. I want to turn our attention back to the district level. You may not have heard, it was just released about 10 days ago. U.S. News and World Report's best high schools in the country and best high schools in Michigan. Community High School at 55, Huron High School at 17, Pioneer High School at 22, and Skyline High School at number 10. Give them a big round. Thank you. For the first time, Skyline High School was also recognized as a top 10 magnet school. That's the first time for us to win that designation, so congrats to Skyline. At the heart of our organization is our critical mission of student achievement. We report to the board and to our community regularly on student achievement. We have reams of reports. They are all located on our website. This is just the highlight. Our goal is very simple: to improve student engagement and student achievement for all student groups and all students. And in fact, we've recently been using the phrase each and every student, because sometimes when your goal is all 100% and you get to 90, that can feel good. And yet in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, we don't want to lose even one student. So we say each and every student, we want to make sure they are all achieving. So our emphasis in student achievement has been in a few areas: increasing access to early childhood, preschool, and to young fives. You may not recognize, but over the previous 5 years, under the leadership of our board and our team, we've expanded young fives, starting with 30 students, just 30 students back in 2012-13, and they were in 2 locations. This past fall, we welcomed more than 400 students in every single K-5 elementary school in the community. Isn't that wonderful? We know that both early childhood and young fives, as well as our focus on early literacy, the district has for many years had a focus on early literacy, but we are driving into particularly ensuring early diagnosis of any reading challenges, making sure that our interventionists are prepared for the kinds of challenges that students experience, whether that's dyslexia or other reading challenges. We know the on-ramp to student achievement is early childhood, young fives, and a heavy focus on early literacy. I appreciate the leadership of the board. We know that early diagnosis and wraparound supports are the key to ensuring our students are ready. At the state level, they talk about 3rd grade reading. We don't think of it that way in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. We're looking at the very earliest days of a child's life and moving them through preschool and through kindergarten. As we look on the other end of the spectrum at our outcome data, Michigan has been moving back and forth with lots of changes in our assessments. So we really are looking now at SAT and graduation rates as system output data of how we're doing. You will notice that we are looking at disparities and how to close the gap in disparities in achievement. And you can see just from far away the 5 areas where we continue to have a laser focus to close achievement disparities. African American students, Hispanic students, economically disadvantaged students, English language learners, students for whom English is their second language, and then on the far right, students with special needs. So we keep that laser focus. We've recently seen some uptick in our data for particular groups of students, and yet we continue to realize and recognize that challenge, and you will hear that as our theme moving forward. The others is our graduation rate. We have lots of work to do to get where we want to be in graduating students 4 years on time. If you have a moment sometime to look at the full report, you'll see that in our 5-year and our 6-year data, we're right at and above 93% of our students in Ann Arbor graduating in the 5th or 6th year. I don't know about you, but they're welcome to stay as long as they need to in order to get to that hurdle of high school graduation. So we love that our programs like Pathways and our comprehensive high schools are getting students over the hurdle, and taking an extra year is no problem at all. We're getting them to the goal. We are delighted, and members of our equity team, I know you're out there, so will you pop up? I didn't tell you ahead of time, but pop up. Do not be shy. There's a whole batch of them right over here. I see them. There they are. Pop up. Give them a big hand. I'm so proud of this work. The Ann Arbor Public Schools has a long history of equity work. And yet we recognized over previous years that it was time to document in a new way a systemic approach to equity. So I just wanted to share 2 highlights of this work with you. And then after this, have a really good treat for you and another student coming down to share with you. This is the working definition. Equity is the moral responsibility of each member of the Ann Arbor Public Schools learning community to take the intentional actions necessary to create a learning community free of barriers, biases, and disproportionality for each and every person, regardless of personal characteristics and social circumstances. Thank you, Equity Team, for supporting our development of a definition and a plan. There are 5 pillars in the plan. They are currently working to populate those with metrics, so we'll be able to measure our progress and know how we're doing with our implementation of equity. I think of the pillars this way. Watch with me and see if you can see it. It's about systems. It's about leadership. It's about culture. It's about the classroom. And it's about family and community empowerment. Isn't that exciting? Yeah, great stuff. So what you'll see over the coming days and weeks and months, I've already seen some previews and it's very, very exciting, is this team has developed learning modules that our principals are doing in every one of our buildings to ensure that we're not just filing this plan on a shelf somewhere, but that we really are actualizing and living the plan in our behavior, in our actions, in our words. So you will hear more and see more. This is the heartbeat of the new strategic plan. And folks say, well, will you still have all the fundamental parts, high-performing workplace, fiscal responsibility? Yes, we will. And they will be married right into this as the frontward-facing plan. So it's a great day to see that coming. I'm so delighted to share with you this evening 3 award winners in the Optimus competition. And Trustee Susan Basquette sits on that. And it's the Optimus oratorical competition. We asked to use their 3 winners. And here's the topic that they were given. I think it's very appropriate. The Optimist Oratorical Contest asks, is there a fine line between optimism and reality? And I love that the 3 individuals you're going to hear from this evening have a beautiful take on that question. Will you join me in welcoming Miss Serafina Botero? She is a senior from Pioneer High School, Optimism and Reality. Serafina, come on down. Thank you.
Is there a fine line between optimism and reality? Now, this is a pretty big question to tackle. However, the age-old rhetorical question, is the glass half empty or half full, may, oddly enough, provide us with some clarity with this question. This question is kind of used as a sort of litmus test to see how one views the world. Do you see it as half empty? You're a pessimist because you're focusing on what's already been lost. Or maybe you see it as half full. You must be an optimist. Your brain naturally fixated on the water to appreciate what is left. Now, the metaphor usually stops there. However, there's one more possibility: realism. A realist would look at the glass and see the full picture. The glass is both half empty and half full simultaneously. Just as the 2 halves make a whole, the realist can see the whole story. That's why I believe that there is a fine line between optimism and reality. Realism is the hard facts, the entire picture, while optimism is an idealist viewpoint we should all aspire to. In other words, as realists, we should acknowledge that the world functions with both good and bad aspects to it. But as optimists, We should always be trying to improve our communities and the greater world to make it into the reality we wish to live in. It's so easy to turn on the news today and immediately want to switch it back off. After all, with the advent of the internet and improved communications technology, it has never been more easy to see the world's greatest tragedies play out directly in front of you. It's becoming an easier and easier world to live in as a pessimist. After all, the UN Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change states that we only have 12 years left until the impacts of global warming are irreversible, destroying billions of dollars worth of property and displacing millions from their homes. Stories of social inequalities with terrifying headlines flash across our screens every day. We can see the poverty that others less fortunate than us live in from halfway across the world with a simple search. This is realism in action. The world is far from a perfect place to live. This is where we need optimism to step in. As dismal as life for us and our planet may seem, the situation is improving in many cases. In Famine, Affluence, and Morality, an essay by world-renowned philosopher Peter Singer on applied ethics, he argues that we are on the cusp of solving world poverty. In 1960, nearly 20% of the world's children died before their fifth birthday. By 1990, it was around 10%. Today, it's roughly 5%. Now, 5% is still much too many, but this dramatic decrease in needless deaths, completely unprecedented in history, proves that foreign aid and volunteer work do make an impact, and that optimism about the future, not giving up when presented with a seemingly insurmountable problem, can save the lives of millions. However, without this foreign aid and tireless work of volunteers to improve conditions, the lives of those children would have never changed. That's what frustrates me the most, when people just say, that's the way the world works. Unless you're talking about the laws of physics, that statement just isn't true. It's the way the world we were born into works. If we walk into situations knowing that they have the capacity to be changed, they will. As science fiction author Ursula K. Le Guin wrote, "The power of many institutions in our lives today seems inescapable, but so did the divine right of kings. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings." The world that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was born into was very different from our own. However, if he had not genuinely believed it could be changed, if he had never dreamt, then the world would have most likely stayed the same. It was his optimism, and the optimism of thousands like him, that led to enormous gains in civil rights for African Americans. And it is that optimism that will carry us through as we continue the struggle against racism and inequality. Looking back in the history books, we see that the world has made enormous changes over the centuries, from feudalism to republics, from the Dark Ages to the computer revolution. Nothing is static, but we need to not accept the lot we were given to change the bad parts. And we need optimism to make that change. This applies to the seemingly insurmountable terror that is modern climate change. This applies to income inequality and the flaws remaining in our political system. This applies to armed conflict across the world. As Le Guin wrote, "It is not inescapable. Any human power can be resisted and changed by human beings." There is a line between optimism and reality. However, we need both to be able to change the world. Reality to understand the facts of the world we were born into, and optimism to act upon them, to make the world we wish to live in, to make the world a glass half full. Thank you.
Very good. Optimism and reality. It's really good that our students do understand that concept, isn't it? We're going to work through just a couple of our goals through the middle of the presentation, and then we're going to hear from two more of our Optimus Award winners. We've been doing work since 2015, and thank you, community, for supporting the 2015 bond. Folks said, well, we do that, fairly often, Swift. I don't remember which one's which. Well, this was back in 2015. Our community approved at about 75 to 80% approval rate. And some of you may recall that this bond occurred with no additional levy to the taxpayer Mr. Marios Dimitriou, who's standing over here, took advantage of historically declining interest rates, and we were able to raise $34 million with no additional tax levy. Isn't that great? Yeah. So I know Norman Herbert and several others of you from the Blue Ribbon worked hard to get this through, and I just want to wrap back on this State of the Schools report to share that we've done a lot of work and we are just closing this out now. I would be remiss, Trustee Emerita, Mr. Glenn Nelson, Dr. Glenn Nelson, right here next to Brian. Give him a big hand. Was on the board at that time. I remember it was back at the preschool, the night that we took the vote on this. I just want you to know, community, 5,000 musical instruments in the hands of students from that bond. New furniture in every core classroom in the district. Westerman Preschool is the last final school, and you're Westerman, where are you? Any Westerman folks out there? You're getting yours. It's on the boat. It'll be here in just a few weeks. So we're excited to wrap that up. Auditorium and performance location improvements. We could not find an auditorium in this district any Wednesday night of this month. That is how heavily our performance facilities are used, aren't they, Ms. Rothfeld? Yes, every week. And those areas have been upgraded. They're not finished, but they're in progress. We are just narrowing in on the last of the elementary and K-8 playgrounds. The vision is that these playgrounds are a hub in the neighborhood, because the number one value in Ann Arbor when we tour the community always is the neighborhood elementary school. And so even if you don't have elementary children, get out for a walk in this beautiful weather and check out that beautiful playground. Ann Arbor Open and Eberwhite are bringing up the very tail end of this project. When we started this bond, our buses averaged 12 years of age. They no longer made parts for the buses we had, so our parts came from scavenged vehicles. And so we knew that we needed a plan for replacement of buses. I'm proud to say that we purchased 104 buses. We have a few more yet to purchase, but we're 95% wrapped up on that. And those buses, you will note, they're the ones with the white tops. Yes, they are air conditioned. And that's a big deal to the students, isn't it? Any students on buses here? Yeah, especially when you're going to an athletic event far, far away. It's good to have air conditioning. And we've also completed our secure entrances. I want to just touch back on another project we've been on, wrapping up our 5th year now. Mr. Kevin Carr is standing in the back of the room. Wave at us, Mr. Carr. There he is. The Ann Arbor Public Schools International Baccalaureate program has been implemented at Scarlett Middle School, at Mitchell Elementary, and at Huron High School. Our goal in this implementation is to improve student achievement and also to work on that international global mindedness. We've implemented the 3 programs, primary years, middle years, and diploma years program. We also are implementing career program, which is that side for students who love hands-on learning. So I see Dr. Schwam from Huron. I know we have Scarlett folks in the room, and then I think maybe some Mitchell folks. Will you all wave and give them a big hand for this good work? So you can see that the progress with the IB program across the 3 schools. I just want to point out this number. It is about the continuum. So anyone from Ann Arbor can do that full continuum, or folks may choose to join at middle school or at high school. That's just fine as well. Diploma years is 11th and 12th grade. So it's possible that some students will join for the diploma years program as well. This is the profile of an inquiry learner, an IB learner, and you can see the competencies that they are developing. Our model is an equity-based model. It is IB for all. And I just want to share with you some data. We just sat for diploma program exams. Our students sat for a total of 1,329 exams in the month of May. And in just a few days, we will graduate our first 57 full diploma grads and another significant number of partial grads. Yes. So again, promises made, promises kept. I want to touch on Project Lead the Way, another project we've been on for some time. I'm very proud that we're doing Project Lead the Way, computer science, engineering, and robotics training and learning opportunities across all of our campuses. Mr. Tom Pachera was here. I think he had to run. There he is. Give him a big hand for overseeing that work. We are excited that it's not only about Skyline's pre-engineering program, but there are these programs in every one of our high schools, every middle school location, and across all of our elementaries. Any of our elementary Project Lead the Way, I know they were trying to multitask and get back to their schools for apparent things. So we do have an amazing team of Project Lead the Way teachers. We implemented this past year, Project Lead the Way at kindergarten. We're the only district in the country to have it implemented young fives through 12th grade. So congrats, Mr. Pachera, on leading that effort. Ms. Shantae Langford is here, or she was here, and she is overseeing, along with all of us, this work toward ensuring a more representative, diverse, and quality workforce through the implementation of Project Grow Your Own, our process and our partnerships. We have two pathways of the Project Grow Your Own. This is where we're growing our own teachers, because you see, for years we've said we can't find teachers who are as representative as we want them to be of all of our students. And so we finally, a year ago, launched this program to grow our own. So there are two pathways. We're growing teachers from among our paraeducators, office professionals, you name it, any other job in the system. We love these folks because they're already in love with children. Most of them live in or around Ann Arbor, and they know exactly what they're getting into because they're in the schools every day. Big shout out to Miss Sharonda Jones. Sharonda, are you with us tonight? I know she has homework. She's a first-year teacher at Hazley Elementary, teaching 3rd grade, and she is our first Ann Arbor Public Schools Grow Your Own teacher candidate. Yeah. We're also working on Grow Your Own from students. So Mr. Kevin Carr and members of our team will be overseeing and working with students. And so what our teacher candidates will do is start in high school. Don't you think that's a great idea? And then we'll build them from high school. So guys, if I'm sending you emails, our dream, our vision is a loan-free, a debt-free teacher education program in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. Wouldn't that be awesome? Yes. And we are starting then with 9th and 10th graders. You know, it seems at first like it might take a while, but those of you who are not in high school will agree with me The time goes quickly, doesn't it? And so you think, oh, that's 4 years. Guess what? 4 years ago, we were saying we don't have enough representative teachers. So 4 years from now, we'll be welcoming a good group of teachers. Isn't that great? We're so excited. Thank you. We are working there. You can see the full report online. That's our current reality. And you can see that we have work to do to bring up our representation, African American teachers, Asian teachers, Hispanic teachers. Those 3 areas, we need to close our gap to ensure that our staff across the schools is representative. We are working on 2 environmental and sustainability programs. I'll be quick, and then we're going to welcome a student speaker. First is over this past year, we opened Freeman Environmental Education Center. How many of you have had an opportunity to get out there? It's a long way out there. How many of you have been out there? Anybody? Okay, great. A few of you. Students, have you been? Okay, well, we're going to get you out there. This is 40 acres that we've owned forever. It had been leased. We took that back into the district and opened up a beautiful environmental ed center. Now, our amazing team continues to do their work both out at other locations and also at the Environmental Ed Center. It's 20 acres of forest and 20 acres of grassland. Just last week, we had AP Bio students out there conducting their own research. They're on the property. They'll be sharing those projects soon. The second part of our environmental sustainability programming is really about monitoring our work in support of the environment across all of our decisions, all of our processes, in all of our schools, at the board level, and across the community. I was very proud of the board last year as they opened a new series of policies, Series 6000. That series is dedicated to environmental sustainability and being good stewards on our planet. So will you celebrate that with me? Thank you. It's a fine line between optimism and reality. Coming to share with you now is Maria Fata. She is a 10th grade student from Pioneer High School. Welcome, Maria.
Is there a fine line between optimism and reality? Absolutely. There is a fine line between optimism and reality. Optimism is being hopeful and confident about the future, and reality is what's actually taking place at that moment. In other words, reality is the real deal. Being raised by a family to be positive and optimistic is the best thing any child would ever receive. I am honored. My family taught me no matter how bad things get, I'm to remain confident, faithful, and determined that things will change in my favor. Oftentimes, things may be difficult, and there may be obstacles in front of us, but I was taught to remain strong and composed no matter what comes my way. Where there is a will, there is a way. As a teen, it's very important to have a solid, reliable, and trustworthy support group. Joining an organization at my high school was one of the best decisions I've ever made. I am now confident and reassured that my optimism and my reality are both heading down the pathway to success. My success is planned, and my reality follows my drive. You know, as I look back over the first 15 years of my life, nourished by all of the love, nutrients, and care granted by my family and friends, all that I could see was peace and assurance. Challenges and worries were on my parents, while ice cream was on my mind. Ice cream's on my mind now, actually. Now, I realize that certain things are meant to happen, and no matter what the outcome, I will adapt to my new reality. My happiness is my new environment, while knowing that tomorrow is a new day and I can start all over again. According to Dr. Martin Seligman, who is the former president of the American Psychological Association, he discovered that optimism and pessimism relies within the way one could explain the events that occur to them daily, which is their reality. Being optimistic is acknowledging the reality of situations so we can do something far from easy, mediocre, or expected. Optimism is staying focused and determined to achieve what you've planned to do. If you are a realist, then you get to accept your situation using knowledge and wisdom, faith, and determination to deal with whatever comes your way. However, if you are an optimist, you keep the hope, trust, and positive attitude within your heart to face all challenges and problems, changing the negative into a positive. Did you know that scientists believe that it takes 37 muscles to frown and only 22 muscles to smile? So, my advice is to remove that frown and keep smiling. So, is there a fine line between optimism and reality? When I see the sunrise in the morning, the sun allows me to see the bright future that my life holds. Being optimistic versus being a realist is like seeing the sunlight and using it as a source of energy to push forward as opposed to disturbed by its brightness. Well, I found out that although there is a difference between optimism and reality, you can have both. However, in the condition, you keep your hope and belief in a bright step in your journey to move forward towards achieving your goals.
Yay, Maria. Thank you. Just a couple of continuous improvement areas. Nothing here will surprise you, but I want to touch on it because, as you know, it's a really big deal to us in the district. A couple of years ago, the board asked us, and we began work on a full assessment, external assessment of every one of our 34 physical properties in the district. Those properties average 63 years of age. I happen to know something about being an age that starts with a 6. So I feel like I know a little bit that these properties, many of them need some fixing up. We know infrastructure is a theme, isn't it? Across our community, across our state, and across our country. And our buildings are no exception. You can go online and see the report on, you can get the video version or you can see the written version. That heat chart on the right represents the condition of our properties. So the last payments were received from our Skyline bond. It wasn't just for Skyline. I refer to it that way because that's how most people remember it. How many of you were in town when we passed that bond for Skyline? There you go. Take that hand, pat yourself on the back. Thank you for that. That bond has paid out its final payments to us last year. So we're in that awkward, uncomfortable, nerve-wracking position where we have no more funds coming in for capital needs. We do, thanks to our voters, have our sinking fund, and that helps with some of our maintenance, but we do not have capital dollars coming. I want to share with you just a few pieces. Additionally, we've been on a path, on a journey to tend to our lead and water testing this year. I'm very proud to share with you this evening an update along about the fall. We've been testing since 2016. The city of Ann Arbor helped us that first year and did some strategic testing. Then in 2017, we did 12 locations in each of our buildings. Team, this year, we tested 1,426 locations, every drinking water location in the district. Here's the good news. As of today, and it's been true for a few months, every single drinking water location is at or below 5 parts per billion, which is the amount allowable in that bottle of water sitting on your table. So we have achieved that dramatic attention. We also are in the process of installing 1 hydration station for every 100 individuals in the district. That's between 200 and 300 stations, and those will be installed, completed by the summer. 24 of our schools tonight, sitting here right now, have 1 per 100, and only in all schools have at least 2. Emil Laudsana was here. Marios Dimitro is still here. Will you give them a hand for their work on this lead in water? So the one thing you need to remember to remind your children, if you want to ensure that your child has non-detect or 0, use that fancy hydration station. If you're okay up to 5 parts per billion, which is what you get in the bottled water, any of our faucets or hydrants, they are signed. As of this summer, you'll see the signs going up, and it says for drinking, and it has a little symbol, and not for drinking. So that's to help us to understand that we're not in the future going to get our water out of the custodial closet or our drinking water or out of the science lab. We will use the designated drinking water locations. There are over 1,400 of them in the district. So we're proud to share that we have healthy water. Isn't that a great day? Yes. Thank you. Student safety, Ms. Liz Margolis is back here. I want to give her a public thank you. We've been busy this year on safe routes to school. I could stay here for a while talking about all the efforts, but we'll summarize. Re-upped our ALICE training, so all of our staff members have had that again. Our safety assessment of every single one of our buildings. How permeable are they, and are we getting the doors closed during class time? Liz was successful in achieving almost $1 million in Michigan State Police grant, and we're using that now with the Crisis Go implementation, which is that emergency crisis implementation that can go to your phone or your laptop or your iPad. So if there ever were to be an emergency, we can get updates directly to our staff, and that feedback goes both ways, from staff to administration and back again. So great safety efforts. We are busy doing the work on 2 school re-envisioning projects. The first is Bryant Pattengill. I'm delighted to have Bryant Pattengill parents here with us this evening. Our goal is that this will be the first school redesign. We've completed 5 school redesigns, all of them wildly successful so far. We're now moving toward Bolt Carpenter, transitioning to a K-8. I saw Mr. Principal Johnson here. He may have had to slip out. And then also with Bryant Pattengill. The vision is to determine new programming that builds on that community's strength as an international community that is diverse and warm and welcoming. This year has been a year of community engagement, and I want to thank everyone who's been involved. Next year is a year of planning, and then in 2021, actually the implementation. Down on the southeast corner of the district, Carpenter and all those associated schools on that corner are full to the brim. And in fact, if you and I drive over there, we might see a child in a window just kind of hanging out because they're so full. They can barely get them all inside. And so we are moving Carpenter to a K-8 model. That was one of the top requests from among our parents, is to have more K-8 options. Right now we have A2 STEAM and Ann Arbor Open, and soon Carpenter will join that esteemed group. They're going to keep their fifth graders this year, and then roll in one grade per year at Carpenter, and that means they will wrap up in the 2021, if I did my math right. So that is the Carpenter and the two school redesign plans. We are doing our work to monitor our fiscal sustainability. Mr. Demetra is watching over this. Team, you know, and I won't go on about it, but I just would be remiss if I didn't mention Michigan now designated dead last in school funding growth over recent years. Dead last in the amount of growth. We've got work to do. I appreciate the courage of the board and my strong team in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. We are advocating at the state level to see change. I was very proud last week when our board passed a resolution to support Governor Whitmer's budget proposal. If you have been busy and haven't seen it, it proposes a weighted formula. So finally, there is an acknowledgement that it costs more to educate some students than it costs to educate others. Under Governor Whitmer's program, the proposal, the Ann Arbor Public Schools would benefit because we are one of those districts with high student need, with a wide continuum of a student population, and this would be helpful. So if you haven't advocated at the state recently, we want to give you an invitation. It's June 18th and June 25th. We're headed to the Capitol with MEA, with our AAEA partners, to have a day of advocacy. We have our challenges ahead of us, but I want you to see this is the historical funding that we've had in the Ann Arbor Public Schools, but I want you to see this number. Over the previous 13 years, since 2005, on our per pupil student funding, we've increased by $1 over 13 years. That's not differentiated for inflation. That is actually $1. So you see, this is our brutal reality. And you can see there at the bottom, if we'd only maintained just the cost of living increase, no additional increase, but just the increase for inflation, that would make the difference of $48 million for this year alone. So you can see these are dramatic numbers. And I just wanted to not miss the opportunity to make sure that if you've not reached out, you know, our representatives and senators are very, very good to support education. Here's what I need you to do. Not only reach to them, but reach to one of your friends, colleagues, connections in a predominantly conservative community around Michigan. Get one of your connectors to reach to their representative. Will you do that? And help us move this conversation. You will see more coming from us. We have a series of videos that we're working on to educate folks, because you see, we don't have the ability to pass a bond for day-to-day operations. We're limited. We're not allowed to do that. So this is a little bit, students, of the optimism. This is a little bit of the reality that we face in the Ann Arbor Public Schools. Another area of continuous improvement is we're working on our special education program, services, delivery, communication, all the pieces and parts. You'll see more about this coming in June. And I want to thank all of you that have been a part either of a survey, a focus group, a parent focus group, a community group. We've done a ton of work and we're very excited to share more in this area. I want to mention 3 areas of challenge. One is around behavior, mental health, and social emotional supports. We are determined to become a trauma-informed system so that we can operate as a compassionate organization with a full toolbox to serve the needs that our students and staff bring with them. School is a microcosm of the macrocosm. If you've seen the news anytime lately, you know we're living in a time of distress, aren't we? And this shows itself inside our classrooms. And so we are determined, and we'll be asking you to join in on the effort to sharpen our tools and ensure that we're well prepared for the needs our students bring to school. I'm so delighted to welcome at this time Elizabeth Scheib. Elizabeth is a sophomore at Community High School, and she's going to share optimism and reality.
Is there a fine line between optimism and reality? In genuine, successful optimism, I do not believe there is a line, nor should there be. Optimism and reality are not mutually exclusive. To see life as it comes while also preserving one's happiness, I absolutely believe we need to hold on to optimism. But can optimism without understanding our reality blind us from the truth? In 2018, America dealt with some very painful things. There were almost as many mass shootings as days. Our government shut down, which negatively affected over 800,000 federal employees and others. California endured their deadliest and most destructive wildfire in history. And the list could go on. So how does one manage to uphold their optimism when this is our reality? To simply try to see the best in every situation and just believe things will turn out well is quite irresponsible. Telling yourself things are okay when they are not isn't healthy, and I think unrealistic optimists are much more likely to crumble under stress and deal with tragedies in unhealthy ways. Overlooking our reality with unrealistic optimism will only turn out poorly. Life isn't perfect. News headlines and social media reminds us of this, so we shouldn't be telling ourselves that it is. But optimism doesn't have to be this way. We don't have to choose between accepting our reality and remaining hopeful and optimistic. Having an optimistic yet reality-accepting and growth-oriented mindset is where I believe the most success lies. You can still hold on to optimism and feel for tragedies. You can be optimistic and realize there's still so much progress to be made in our country. As a young person with an interest in social justice, I've learned a lot about historical movements. In particular, I've had a passion for learning about the women's suffrage movement. The women who fought for the vote astonish me with their resilience and bravery. And after thinking about what optimism means to me, these women are excellent examples. Alice Paul and other suffragettes were imprisoned for picketing the White House. In prison, despite facing terrible violence, Alice continued to speak out about women's injustice and ended up going on a hunger strike in protest. She inspired other imprisoned women to strike as well. After being released from the inhumane conditions, the suffragettes continued to fight until 1920 when the 19th Amendment was passed, giving women the right to vote. Their perseverance shows that realistic optimism and persisting even when things are at their worst brings the changes we want to see. During their activism work, times were not always easy. Things did not always go as hoped for, and the women faced incredible hate, violence, and discrimination. With this said, obviously they weren't always bright and positive, but their roots of optimism were still there. They believed they would get their way. Change would come. So they kept fighting until they got there. This is realistic optimism, and it shows that to be successful, you must not draw a line between optimism and reality. Believing there is a line is only putting up barriers for yourself. Being realistically optimistic in all situations is extremely powerful. When you are able to take in the difficult things and deal with them instead of pushing them aside and blindly hoping for success. When you are realistically optimistic, you are able to hold on to the core of your optimism even when barriers are thrown in your way. You can persevere and reach your goals effectively. Remaining optimistic in times of distress is possible and healthy. You just have to know what optimism truly is and why it's important to hold on to. Thank you.
Thank you for your partnership and for your investment in our 18,500 and something beautiful children. We are so fortunate to have you as partners in our community and to have our children. And when we ask ourselves as a district, where are you going? I think about big, hairy, audacious goals. And we're not making any announcements tonight, so don't get nervous. But we think about things like expanding career and tech ed so that our students can smoothly and seamlessly move right into career if they want to, or stair-step themselves in. We dream of a day of comprehensive physical renewal and restoration for all of our buildings so that we're preparing for the next generation of students in the way that generations before us paid it forward to us. We are the stewards of 34 beautiful buildings and their associated properties, over 700 acres of land. We would not have that resource if it were not for the sacrifices of those who came before. And yet, at their current age, it's time for us to think about the future. So the Balinese would say, where are you going? We want to expand our partnerships down to the earliest days of life and up through the associate's degree in partnership with the community college. We are determined, we are committed that we won't just see our reality and become half empty, discouraged, but we'll see in our reality opportunities for achievement and for moving our conversation forward. Change will not come. Obama said it this way, change will not come if we wait for some other person or some other time. We are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the change that we seek. He also said we did not come to fear the future. We came here to shape it. Students, I hope and I believe that you will shape the future. Enjoy every moment. Move forward with confidence. You come from a mighty place, students, and you will make a difference in this world. So I thank you all for being a part of the State of the Schools annual report. If you're a geek like me and you'd like to see all of the full reports, they're all right on the front of the webpage. Just go right either to superintendent or to board, and you can get the full enchilada on any of the subjects that we talked about tonight and others. It is my greatest honor to serve as the superintendent of the Ann Arbor Public Schools, and I thank you for your attendance this evening. I'm going to turn to President Mitchell if you wanted to greet the crowd, and then we will wrap up.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you, President Mitchell. Thank you. Please shake the hands and congratulate these beautiful students, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you so much.